the Kamakura Bakufu was certainly innovative. And to get back to the political narrative, the Kamakura Bakufu was certainly innovative and had a great many levers on which shoguns and then later their Hojo overseers could push in order to get things done. That is not to say that it was all-powerful. In fact, it had several really serious problems that would stay with this government and essentially all warrior governments until the Tokugawa, who finally in 1600 found a way to solve some of these problems. But one of the main problems for this government was that it was hard to control powerful vassals. You had in your reading Carl Friday's from Carl Friday's book, the what was it? The Wada Rebellion, the description of the Wada Rebellion, which was a rebellion against the early Kamakura Bakufu by a vassal who felt that he was not rewarded well enough and who felt that his family had been slighted by the Hojo. That happened all the time with regularity, and it was a danger for the Hojo until the very end. And actually, in the end, they would be overthrown by one of their vassals, actually by two of their vassals, the Nita and the Ashikaga families. So this is something that was always on their mind. And another thing that was on the mind of the people in charge of the Kamakura Bakufu was that the court, yes, was useful, but the court could also potentially be a source of opposition if an emperor decided to got it into his head that he should really wrest power away from the samurai class altogether. This did happen. Certainly, it happened during the end of this government, which we'll be talking about later, and it also happened in 1221, as we'll see in the next slide. One other weakness that I want to talk about before I get to that, though, is that the Hojo Regency itself was inherently problematic in some ways. It showed that the shogun was a puppet, and that decreased the prestige of the shogun. And it also led the Hojo to rule in a certain way. The Hojo were, to make a long story relatively short, they were not good at sharing power. They were not necessarily that gifted at rewarding their retainers to the degree that was necessary to keep their loyalty, and they could be harsh. And this, coupled with the image of the Hojo as this clan of behind-the-scenes puppet, well, actually quite open puppet masters, was something that would eventually play against them. Many samurai resented that. So much of the trouble for this warrior government was actually from other warriors, and that is the way that it would remain, as I said, for quite a long time to come. So this incident in 1221, the Jokyu War, is actually fairly important and very telling, despite being very short. What happened was that Emperor Go-Toba actually did what the Hojo were afraid he would do, which is to assert control, to try and assert control, to reassert the primacy of the imperial family as, the law of the land, like it or leave it. And he got some support, some Taira remnants, and some other samurai disaffected with Hojo rule. There were always some, and more as time went on. But anyway, he declared the Hojo regent, I'm sorry, I forget which Hojo this was, an enemy of the state, and the Hojo put together a large army and crushed him completely. So this challenge actually ended up backfiring on the imperial family, because in their victory, the Hojo they drew some conclusions. They extended their power, their effective control over the lives of warriors into Western Japan. Before, remember, their base of power had been in the East. They'd had some influence in the West, but the imperial court was still very powerful. There will no more. This was a way for the Hojo to break up their political opposition, but also in doing so, it would extend the system of samurai dominance over many aspects of local life and give it a legal basis throughout all of Japan as it was known then. Hokkaido, the northernmost island of Japan today, was still very much not a part of Japan, but throughout the other three main islands, Honshu, Shikoku, Kyushu, it really was the case that you really did have warrior control over many local events, whether or not the emperor continued to rule in Kyoto.